70% Podcast with your host, Amy Alexander and Mike Sewell.
I feel like we have to start somewhere. I think, yes, we're going to have different topics on the show, but I think it's like a continuing saga. Like if we are really going to get people to understand and come together, then we can't just pick a topic. We just roll with it. It's like, okay, well, where do we start? All right. Slavery is the reason. Because of slavery, there is this disproportionate treatment and everything, correct?
In contention between people of color and white people.
Right,
Correct.
right.
Yep.
So then I was trying to go back to the history of slavery and and all those things, and that's kind of where our conversation started.
The origins of not racism but slavery. The origins of slavery is not the problem with or it's not the problems that we're having in America today, and it's not what the media and others are using to divide us. It's the fact that slavery happened here in America. So what happened, before Christ and so on and so forth, and in other countries, is really neither here nor there with the contention and stuff that we're having in the country today.
I think it has a little bit of a basis for it because slavery actually happened everywhere. Not just in America. It's been happening since, like we talked about last night, and I had some links and things and it happened to more than just, it happened a lot with people of color, not as much with white people, but I think it's something to study, because if the injustices of slavery are happening here in the United States, but they're not happening in another country, then why? Because all countries have experienced it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. All countries have experienced it. I agree that it's been a something that's been in our since the beginning of time. However, what a lot of people of color are upset about is that when we talk about the contentions that we have here in the United States between white people and the people of color, some people will say, well, white people were enslaved also at one point or another. And that's not the point. The main point is we have a problem that needs to be corrected.
Right. But if each side of the problem doesn't realize, how do I want to say this? When we're talking to each other about this,
right,
and you're like, you made a comment yesterday that I was like, oh, okay, well, that's it right there. Because I said, yeah, I don't understand what you're saying or how you feel or what you've experienced as a black person, but you also don't know what it's like as a white person from this end being blamed for that constantly. And you're like, it doesn't matter. You're not the one that's oppressed.
No, I don't think I said that. I think what I said was that now you know how black people have felt for many years.
Right. So what you're saying then is that it's an eye for eye thing, or you want to pull us down to how you feel instead of letting us help you pull us up to where you want to be.
No, and I don't think that's what anyone is saying. I think what people are saying is that, okay, so white men feel demonized today because of the way they're portrayed in the media. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I get that. I understand that it's ridiculous the way we are portraying them in the media today and demonizing white men in general, because of things that happened in the past and the fact that there's still problems today. Mm-hmm. However, recognizing that feeling is how black people have felt for generations. So just because white people are feeling it today, they're feeling demonized and they're feeling like they're the villain today, they're getting a little glimpse, a small glimpse, a sliver sliver. Because you don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it is a slither. I don't know.
yeah.
It could be snakish.
Anyway.
Nice one.
Okay. So a small glimpse of what black people have been dealing with for centuries. You know, it's so for you to say, or for any white person to say, "Oh, I feel demonized," you know, most black people are like, "Okay, we've been through this all our lives. What are you talking about?"
Right. But what I'm saying is demonizing the other person doesn't necessarily mean that the problem is going to get fixed. I feel like sometimes we're just trying to do the eye for an eye thing, and it's like, well, so who the fuck cares if you feel demonized? Well, if the people that aren't the demons, you make them feel demonized, whether they deserve it or not, because of their past, they are not going to be any more able, they're not going to help the situation any more so by feeling more demonized.
And that's where you and I agree. That's where you and I agree. I don't think I don't agree with how the media are portraying this today and making white America feel as though feel demonized or feeling like all black people hate them or whatever the case may be. I don't like it, and I think that to collectively, the only way to solve this problem is if we're not placing blame, however, recognizing that there's a problem and fixing that problem.
Okay, so not placing blame on white people is where we need to go.
I don't think placing blame on anyone is where we need to go, because white people will turn around and say, well, black people are killing black people in Chicago.
Well, I know.
That's placing blame.
Right. And we're round and round in that argument.
Exactly.
But how do we get people not to because I honestly feel like there are probably a lot of people that want to help or would help if they didn't feel like they're so hated because of what the media says and everything else that is being said about them as being part of this generation of racist assholes that brought slaves over to this country. And regardless if they were sold in Africa by black people to whoever and brought here, that doesn't even matter. That point doesn't matter. The point is that eye for an eye thing, like, well, now you know how we feel. We're never, ever, ever going to know exactly how that feels as a white society. However, we're also not going to be encouraged to help make things right if we're just always to blame for it and not going to be part of the solution. I mean, we're going to be part of the solution because this is what you demand,
right? But
not part of the solution because you feel like we're not like that anymore. And we want to, instead of like, oh, those other white people, they sucked and we whatever. So now you new white people, we like you and you're good. And instead, we don't feel that way. Well, I don't think as a population of white America. I think we feel like we are being laid to blame for fucking shit up in the past. And there's nothing we can do except for, and we, affirmative, and we've done things, affirmative action, right to vote, all that stuff has taken so long to get through the system. But when is the point where it's okay now?
Well, you have situations like affirmative action. A lot of white people fought against affirmative action because they didn't think that it should be something that
so what
that
they're
should be put in place.
Yeah,
to balance the scale, so to speak. And like I said, when it comes to placing blame and stuff like that, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons why we're talking about this, so that we can get both sides talking, understanding that there is a problem. We don't need to place blame on one another. Mm-hmm. And what we need to do is recognize that there's a problem and begin to take action to fix those problems.
Right. And we know there is a problem. We do. There are a lot of people in denial. And the people that are in denial, I feel like they're in denial because, and this is just my opinion, of course, I haven't gone out and taken a national poll. Right. Maybe there's one out there. I don't know if anybody's got one. Go ahead and throw the link out. I feel like the people that are against that are being are taking it personally and feeling like they're to blame for, being told that they're to blame for the entire situation. So guess what happens when somebody blames you for something you didn't do personally? You're going to take offense or defense. Offense. No, defense.
well, we can tell you don't play football, right?
Right. You're going to get defensive about it.
Absolutely. And I can see your point. I think I don't know. I see your point, but I can see the argument from the other side as well. I can see, Black people saying, well, you know what? It was your ancestors. This is the history. This is what we've had to deal with. So now,
right.
I get that you're upset that you're being demonized. However, it's not us that's doing it. It's the media that's doing it. It's not Black people in general that's saying all white people should be
that sounds like that's according to the media. It's
right. Right, but that's the way of whomever to divide and conquer.
Right,
to keep us separated.
Yes, and the people that are not willing to jump on board and recognize that there is still a problem and that it needs to be fixed are the people that really don't buy into or accept the fact that they are responsible for what their ancestors did.
Right.
And I have to admit that I have a hard time wrapping my head around that too. Sometimes, like, I get it. Like, yeah, I feel, but I didn't, my ancestors didn't have slaves at all. Like, I didn't have, my people came from Norway and yeah. And you know what I mean? So it's not that I'm trying to say, oh, it's not my fault at all, but I'm trying to say from a perspective of the people that are really struggling to,
accept responsibility.
Yes.
And like I said, I can see that. Like if someone came to me and said, "Hey, your son did X, Y, Z, and I think you should pay for it." Like if my son decided to skip out on his rent from his landlord, and then his landlord came to me and said, "Hey, you should pay for it because that's your son."
Okay.
I wouldn't feel responsible to pay for his rent, or whatever, because he ran out on it.
Okay.
So, and then if I was demonized because of it, that would make me even more upset and less apt to want to do anything about it.
Okay, so now what if somebody, a relative of your great-great-great-grandpa came in and said that back in the day, my grandpa screwed up something in your grandpa and now you have to pay for it.
Right. And that's the point that I think everyone is missing. Okay, so are white people being demonized today because of things that have happened in the past? Yes. And should that be? Absolutely not. However, there is no however. That's where it stops.
Thank you.
Right there. There is no however.
That's what I was trying to get at. There shouldn't be a however.
In addition, the problem that we're faced with is there are not white allies to the to minorities, to the people of color.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being offended, and I know it's hard to do, and I'm trying to say this so that I'm not offending anyone,
right?
But instead of feeling as though, and Black people don't feel like it's. The point is that no one is recognizing or accepting the fact that there's a problem in America today, and that needs to be fixed. When Black people stand up and say, when we protest peacefully,
right?
We're demonized for doing that.
Well,
when we protest loudly, we're demonized for doing that. So we haven't had a voice.
People. You're not. It's not like the whole entire. Yeah, and I get that, and I agree with you. And I mean, Tim Tebow shouldn't be ridiculed for saying a prayer, nor should Colin Kaepernick for kneeling to the flag. And people not understanding that the flag doesn't. They're not disrespecting the country. They're disrespecting. They're not. they're what is the word I'm trying to use? Not disrespecting the flag, but it's a symbol of the country and the way that they've been treated throughout the history of the country.
Right.
People don't see. First of all, there are a lot of people that have not even. There are white people that probably don't even know one person of color, and have any even thoughtful conversations about any of this.
Right.
I bet you a lot of people. In fact, somebody today told me, because I was talking about the show, and he's like, I said, we're just having those difficult conversations. And he's like, my mom likes to call those the courageous conversations.
I like it.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, yeah, because difficult conversations you don't want to do. But so we're in the business of courageous conversations.
I like it. We're going to steal that.
We are. We are. I already told him that. Thanks, Mom. So, and having those courageous conversations is going to open some people's eyes, hopefully. But I think part of the thing, or part of the situation that we were talking about, yesterday while we were prepping for the show, was we know that there's a problem, but who is responsible for it?
We all are, collectively.
Right, but who are we? So who? All right, let me rephrase. Who are we delegating to solve the problem?
And that's where the problem lies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't lie with me.
No. Or me.
Or you.
Right.
It lies with, and all the people that are in charge of all the stuff that they are white, they are black, they are Muslim, they are Christian, they are, whatever, they are the people that, okay, yes, we were talking about education yesterday. Absolutely. If you can educate people in the inner cities so that
we were talking about reparations.
Oh, yeah, reparations. So using reparations to educate people in the inner cities. Right. And then I said, well, we are already giving money there, but it's not being spent effectively. So we can keep throwing money at it, but the funnel doesn't go to to the kids. The funnel is going right into the pockets of the people that are supposedly helping the kids.
Right.
It's like, hey, 10 cents of all the money you give to the March of Dimes, or 10 cents out of $1 actually goes to the kids. Right. That's the situation we have right now. But we keep voting these asshats in.
Yep.
And then we talked about statistics a little bit, and that's how we had 40% or 39% of Democratic voters were people of color. 15% of Republican voters were people of color. So in order to how do we educate the people that are voting themselves into their lost reparations to quit doing that? I
think one of hopefully this show begins to start to educate people that the career politicians and the billionaires are not for us. They haven't been for many years. It starts to take a turn where we can collectively, as the 70% Club, be able to vote together for the people that we want to have in office that are actually going to make the change. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you're a Democrat and you truly care about the people and truly care about the country, and you're not lining your pockets with big farmers' money and all of this other crap, then those are the people that we need to vote into office. Right. And we need to do our research. We need to do our homework and understand who is actually going to be for the American people. We had Donald Trump in office, and was he, was he the nicest person in the world? No, he was. Most people that voted for him would say he was a jerk. However, he put in policies in place that helped the country and that helped the people of the country. Mm-hmm. And so I think we need to educate people on how to vote. So not vote with your emotions. Right. Vote with your with what's going to be best for the country. No matter who's leading the country, what's going to be best for the country. Right.
Best for the country is for the people of the country to take responsibility individually, but together, to make sure the bullshit that's going on right now doesn't happen continuously. Because if we just keep voting them in and we keep giving, I have yes, let's give more money to the interstate, whatever, but it doesn't go there.
Right.
We lose it. As soon as it comes out of our paycheck, we lose it. And if we keep voting these people in, we're just going to vote in that same cycle. And that's how it becomes systematic.
And
systematic.
That's, right.
Systematic.
And that's how we're in the position we're in today.
Right. And how are we going to fix it when we have people that are lying to us, like our media, telling us that Donald Trump is a racist and that he isn't for the people and he's only lining the pocketbooks or the pockets of his rich friends. That media is also in charge of the media that you and I use to get our information out.
Right.
That they are now censoring.
Exactly.
So
and
now what
either censoring or calling conspiracy theorists.
Right.
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 So if we say it's, we need to vote these people out of office, now we're conspiracy theorists because we don't believe in the fact that, the large population of America is racist or inherently racist. We don't believe that the division that we have in this country is as widespread as they would like us to believe. Now we're conspiracy theorists because we don't believe that
right.
narrative.
Exactly. So how do we get past that? I mean, this is all for nothing if we are just sitting here talking to each other. I mean, no offense. I like hanging out with you, Mike.
Great conversation, but yeah.
But if we can't get past, because that division, that they have figured this is Alinsky 101, divide them and then conquer. Art of War, actually, 101, whichever. Until we can get people of color and white people to understand that the race battle isn't what we want or what we're not perpetrating that, or it's not as bad as everybody is being led to believe.
Right.
I think it'll be easier for people to come together and work together, because that's really the only way that any of this is going to work, is if we get enough people that recognize that we can all just freaking get along if we put the right people in office. Not the people that are promising you a $1,200 check, $300 a month,
not
or
the
whatever.
people that are promising you 40 acres and a mule.
Right, exactly. See, history repeats itself.
Let's dive into the reparations a little bit more. Because a lot of people feel that, or a lot of people of color or black people in general feel that there should be some reparations paid to the black community. And,
paid directly, like the stimulus checks from the COVID crap.
well, there's some people of that belief that hey, I should get a $1,200 check a month until I reach $100,000 or whatever, or I should just get $100,000 in my bank account. I should wake up tomorrow morning and have $100,000 in my bank account.
And that's going to help that person that never had $100,000 before.
Well, see, that's the problem,
right?
And don't get me wrong, I believe in reparations. I believe there should be some reparations in order to balance out the inequalities or some of the inequalities that have happened. However, how you pay those out are different.
And how they're used, yeah.
And how they're used,
right.
Correct. So if you give a broke person that has never had money before $100,000, a week later, 2 weeks later, they'll be broke again because they don't know how to spend that money.
Right.
But if you teach the people that have been in a cyclical poverty, how to get out of poverty, how to invest $1, how to make money work for you, then that's how, in my opinion, those reparations should be paid. So it should be paid through education and teaching people how to get out of that situation and stay out of that situation.
Right. I think a lot of people, white, black, and whatever, think when they hear reparations, they hear just you guys get a free check. We're working and you guys are getting a free check.
Right.
And because you happen to be black, regardless of whether or not you're a millionaire or you're broke, you're going to get this check.
No, I think they have a cap on it. I think
They do, but
I get what you're saying.
right. So I mean, I'm making $40,000 a year, and I'm getting taxed in order to help pay the reparations. And this guy is making $60,000 a year, and he's getting a $1,200 check from me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's where a lot of the imbalance. Like I agree. If we can help, I understand the problem and I can see the solution, and if we can find a way to help in there, but I don't. The way that the government and media and the appearance of how that's going to be paid out, they don't say any, like, reparations equals paying out blah blah blah. The definition is always meant. Sometimes I feel like they define it in order to piss people off,
in order to have that division. In order to have it's the same thing with defund the police. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people are upset about the defund police. You know. And defunding the police doesn't mean, do without police departments. A lot of the defund police narrative means to add more social workers into the police force so that they can deal with certain issues or have people go out.
That doesn't come across even with the verbiage of defund the police.
Yeah, but in my opinion, that's even ludicrous. That's ridiculous to have social workers out there dealing with domestic situations because they don't have the authority to do anything about that situation if it does escalate. Mm-hmm. So defund the police, in my opinion, should be re-educate police. So every police officer should have a bachelor's degree at the very minimum in psychology. At the very minimum, they're running up against people in the streets and that are coming from all walks of life mm-hmm. and dealing with all different types of situations. Mm-hmm. You never know what happened to this person that this in the morning or in the afternoon or over their lifetime. Who they lost. Their parents or whatever. They don't know what they're walking into. However, if they can look at things from more of a psychological standpoint, the guy that's standing in the middle of the street waving the knife around, you're not going to think, if you've taken psychology and understand that about schizophrenia or bipolar or things of that nature, you're not going to just whip out your gun and start shooting at the guy because he's got a knife in his hand. You might tase him. You might do whatever you can to subdue him, mm-hmm. But when you are educated on the different types of mental illness, you begin to have a little bit more empathy or sympathy for people that are going through those types of situations.
Right. So the bottom line for this and why this is defunding the police it came up on the spotlight is police brutality. It's basically police brutality. And not all cops are bad cops, right?
I agree.
And there are some really shitty cops out there, though.
Right. Not all doctors are bad doctors.
Right.
There's some bad doctors out there.
So what do you re-educate the shitty police people?
I think you re-educate all the police. Most of the police in New York City. Okay, I was auxiliary police officer in New York City for a while. When I was in 18 to 20. And I also applied to become a New York City police officer. I went through the psych and the physical and all of that stuff. I ended up just leaving New York and going back to California, so I never became a police officer, but I was really close to doing that. However, what I did was, without even a high school, I had a GED. I didn't have a high school diploma. So without even having a high school diploma, I had a GED. I was able to go down to this school where they put all of these people in, take a test, pass the test, and now once I pass all the psych eval, physical, and all of that stuff, I'm a police officer without an education. So you're going to give me a gun and a badge at 21 years old,
right? Do you think
and say, okay, go out here and police this. Of course, you got to go through the academy, so you get some training. So it's not like you don't get any kind of training at all, but you get more of the combat training, hands-on hand, combat training, how to use your weapon, how to use your taser, things like that. They teach you a little bit about psychology and stuff like that. However, it's not enough.
So as a police officer, the most important thing that you can have, or most important trait, is either street smarts or book smarts. Which would you pick?
I think I would say you need to have street smarts. However, you need to. I really think you need to have psychology degree. You're dealing with people.
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody deals with people. We all need a global psychology class. People.
You can hear the psychology professors now, like, yes, I got a job forever.
Nate, the producer, is like, yeah, baby. Oh no, you're lit.
I was thinking about this, and I'm trying desperately not to interject, but producer Nate, question. Maybe this is part of the show. I'll just quickly do this, but when you guys are talking about reparations, when we're broadcasting from Wisconsin, First Nation, and Native Americans. What we did was we gave reparations.
We gave them reservations, and they built the casinos.
Correct. I don't know if that's a false analogy, but I don't think that's what we're talking about. If I broke my wife's heart so badly, but we still love each other, like you two love each other, and I said, well, we're going to work on this, and I'm going to write you a check out for $10,000 every single month. Is that going to do it? There's something unsettling, and I can feel it throughout our country. That's where people kind of back off.
Because I
don't know what.
Well, I think I have two theories about
what's
that.
enough.
Right, what's enough? Because the purpose of the reparations, how do you put a price on that?
It's almost,
right.
For lack of a better term, gross. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's demeaning to the other person.
Yeah, we're going to pay you off.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
There's something unsettling.
And then
we're just being really honest right now.
Here's some money, shut up.
Well, yeah, I mean,
a little
hey,
bit.
we want to make you happy, and if that's money, that's great. And the other thing, and from my side too, as like the former finance manager of a major company, I want to know where that money is going. Like, I have no problem giving up money that I know is going to something that's going to help this cause or help this situation. But I'm not going to send somebody, because I know, you and I both know, there are people that will take that check and go down and buy a TV or sit around and not get a job because they are getting paid to not do so. Right. It's not going to necessarily increase. It's not going to serve its purpose to bring them up to the society that
it's not going to give the equality that people are looking for. It's not going to make things even. You know, it's not going to boost the black economy and make black people, unless, you know, black people only spend that money with black companies. You know,
but
now we're dividing again.
Exactly.
Now we're dividing.
I'm so glad you said that.
We're still not bringing the country together, and that's the main point.
Mm-hmm.
So just to help you understand, and I was just talking to Amy about this a little bit ago. But reparations, there is a narrative out there that people want their 40 acres and a mule. Okay, whether that comes in dollars and cents, whether that comes in land, or whatever the case may be. However, if you give a person who's lived in poverty their whole life, $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, whatever. Or just give them a check for $100,000 and say, okay, you're paid off. Yep. They're going to be broke again the following week. It's not going to solve the problem. The way we solve the problem, the way we dole out reparations is through education. You know, we cut down the school system or
investing in
the future of that people. To invest in the black community. And allow or educate black people on how to not only gain wealth, but also how to continue to gain wealth is the way to do it. And is it going to work for everybody? No, it's not. There are going to be some people out there that just don't want to learn, that just don't care. You know. I mean, just look at the white people in America today. Oh yeah. You know, you have some white people who are multi-billionaires. You know, the 1%ers. You have some white people who are, you know, that are doing nothing. You know, and they had every opportunity in the world to be able to do anything they wanted to do. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they're living off the government. In California, it's a melting pot. So the ghettos are a melting pot. You got whites, blacks, Asians, whatever, all in the same neighborhood, living in the same apartment building. Right. And so I grew up with a lot of white people who were just as broke as any black person.
Okay.
So it's not like.
Okay. So if they were all, then how did they get out of that situation? The white people out of the gutter, out of the sorry, the ghetto.
Sometimes.
It's the gutter.
Sometimes, yeah. I think that's another misrepresentation that white people are being told, is that only black people are in the ghettos, and that and to that point, even if you're a black person in the ghetto and a white person in the ghetto, that white person is going to get out before the black person does. And I get that. And that's what you're saying. And that's why we need reparations. But what a percentage of that is just lazy fucking people?
Exactly.
How do we,
People
I don't
is
want
the
to give
key.
my money to lazy people.
Right.
I don't care what color they are.
Right. And I feel the same way. And there's a lot of people, a lot of people of color who feel the same way. We're not going to, so we're going to give you reparations. We're going to give you money so that you could sit at home and spend all of that money and end up in the same spot you're in today. You didn't do anything to further the black community. You didn't do anything to help us out. If you're going to just spend that money wildly and go buy cars and put rims on your car and all that other crap.
Right. While I'm over here busting ass, wishing I could afford a vacation.
Exactly. So if you take that money and you're going to invest in education, you're going to invest in property, you're going to invest in, but even if you did all of that, even if you invested in property, you know how many people will buy a house, they're able to all of a sudden, okay, I got my tax money back, I'm going to go ahead and buy myself a house. They buy a house, and then 2 or 3 years later, they're refinancing that house or taking out a second mortgage on that house so that they can fix this up and fix that up or whatever the case may be. So now you got a house for $100,000 that you purchased, and then you take out 2 years later because the market increased or whatever, you're taking out a $20,000 second mortgage on the house to fix it up, but you're still working the $12 an hour job. Well, now you're back in the same boat you were in the first place, and now your house goes into foreclosure. Why? Because you don't know how to manage your money.
Right.
And for the first time listener, Mike and Amy are both real estate experts. Just so you know.
Thank you for the clarification, Nate.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
No, so they know. I mean, this is not coming from some blog off the internet.
Well, and to that point, my first time home buyers that I work with, I tell them all the time, and I'm probably overstepping my bounds, but I tell them all the time at the closing, once closing is done and stuff like that, I tell them, like, look, in a few years, your house is going to be worth a lot more. Do yourself a favor. Do not take out a second mortgage on your house. Do not refinance your house unless you're refinancing strictly for a lower interest rate and to lower your payments. But don't pull the money out of your house. Use that for retirement. 10, 20 years from now, the house that you bought for $100,000 is now going to be worth $150,000, but you're only going to owe $50,000 on the house. So now you have $100,000 that you could put into your pocket when you're ready to retire.
Right. Or you get enough that you have enough equity that you can do a HELOC, a home equity line of credit.
Yep.
Like I have enough equity in my house that I can take $30,000 out without asking anybody, and I can put a down payment on a flip property, and I can get that money back 4 months later.
Right.
It's stuff like that.
Or flip property or a buy and hold or whatever.
Right.
Whatever.
But just taking it out in order to get a new car or buy a boat or motorcycle or whatever, or just to this is, I think, the most common, and I don't know this statistically speaking what exactly this number is, but most people take out home equity lines of credit or cash out refis to pay off credit card debt.
Yes. Yep. And I would talk to people about the investment opportunities that they can have in a few years. However, with some of the first time homeowners that I work with, just talking to them about not taking that money out, and so that they don't lose the house. is more than what they can handle at that moment. There's the biggest conversation that they can handle about investment at that moment. Now, years later down the road, maybe I can have a deeper conversation with them.
Or
but
maybe
you don't
you
want
put a little article in your newsletter.
You don't want to
about that.
inundate them with too much information.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Can you hey, we can cut this out if you guys don't like this, but it really struck me. I think we were out by the pond. That's our break, just to give the visual to all the listeners. We take our breaks out by the pond, but he had mentioned, I just had a client not even a week ago who had an issue with you because you were black. And it turns out she was what?
She was black as well. Yeah.
Please describe this. This is fascinating. This is exactly what we're talking.
This is one of those hard conversations that I didn't want to get into.
It's not
Okay,
a hard
you don't have to.
conversation.
Courageous.
It's a courageous conversation.
Right.
Exactly.
I did want to get,
but this is what the show.
And so one of the biggest problems that in my opinion, that we have in the black community is you have black people who are against black people. So if you have a black person that has been educated or has a little something going for themselves, now they're branded bougie, or they think they're too good, or whatever the case may be, and that's 9 times out of 10 not the case at all. Mm-hmm. So this young lady decided that she doesn't want to work with her people. I don't mess with my people, is what she said.
Wow.
So how is it, as a people, as a community, are we going to come together collectively, just as a community? I mean, if you're worried about white people putting us down, we're doing it to ourselves.
Right. So
we're doing it in that instance, and in a lot of other instances like that, we're doing it to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think that came from, though? I was trying to wrap my head around that.
It typically comes from the fact that when you look at the field hand and the house hand, okay, so you have that separation where the field, the people that were working in the fields thought that the person that was working in the house was above them, and the people that were working in the house thought that the people were working in the field were below them.
Class division within
the
community.
Within your own community.
So is that is that innate? Like not innate, but innate. Sorry, it's been a long time. Is that, so we have class division within the black community, within that class. Then you probably have division even small, between people there. And then you have like this, so you have infighting, outfighting, all this division. How do we, and for the person that said they don't like to work with her people or whatever, is there any, if we need people like that to help us get to the point where the reparations we're paying are getting spent correctly by the right leaders, how do we get her to understand that we all need to come together?
And that's the hard part, that she's not just fighting against white people, but she's fighting against her own people as well.
That's what struck me.
But you get that in white communities too. Sure. The sad part is that you have some white people who hate rich white people.
I was just going to say it's class and economics.
Right.
It's a class warfare system.
It is.
Right. But it's to me, when it comes from my people, it hurts. It does. I'm not going to sit down and cry about it. I'm still going to do it.
No, but it pissed you off. I saw how you look. You were mildly irritated.
More so hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt that I'm trying to reach out and help her to purchase a house for herself. Mm-hmm. But because of the color of my skin, you don't want to work with me.
Bingo.
How ironic.
Hold on. Did you look in the mirror? Did you notice that we look the same?
No, but
So-
did you notice
so
that's exactly the conversation that we're having right now?
Yeah.
Exactly. And but based on that narrative, she doesn't do anything for herself either. So there's
Right.
interesting.
And
Because
that's
she don't
the
mess
thing.
with her.
Yeah. Right. So she's not getting the best black real estate agent in the city.
You got to cut that out.
No, we're keeping it in. You got to have a billboard. Best black real estate agent ever.
All right. I should have said male real estate agent.
I'm only selling to my people. Yeah, that'll go over real well.
I call him the best real estate agent because that takes me out of the contention, and that's not how it's gonna.
And you're the Obi-Wan of all these people. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I don't know if I'd consider myself Obi-Wan, but no, I'm.
Okay, Yoda. Yeah, there you go. Sorry, that was a dorky reference.
Baby
We
Yoda.
can cut that out.
Yeah. So in that respect, now it kind of. So that's racism within a race, or
I think what Nate said is more accurate. It's more classism than racism.
right. But in that case, it was because of the color of your skin.
Correct. That's what was said. So
That's what's astonishing. That's why it struck me, and that's why I brought it up.
I've had people say they wouldn't date me because I was because of the way I speak.
Speak.
I spoke too
Because your
proper.
voice is so low.
You speak too proper. I can't date you. You sound too white for me.
Are you serious? All right. So
But
we're
that's
not
that's what you
yeah.
get. That's what you get. You get that infighting and stuff like that. But like I said, all races deal with that. It's not just black people who deal with that. I'm sure there's Asians and Jewish people and
white people.
white people. I know the Italians. I mean, in Brooklyn, you got the Gambinos and you got the
Sure.
Isn't that how West Side Story was?
I was just going to say, when you're a jet till the end. Maria. Sorry. I get carried away.
Oh man.
I love West Side Story.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Romeo and Juliet meets the hood, man.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I mean, Amy and I grew up in the Midwest. And technically speaking, I mean, when I went to grad school at Iowa, I mean, I had people from all over the world, whether it was Oxford and then, some of the big schools here, a little place called Harvard, stuff like that. But these people were all over. And they said, oh, you're from Wisconsin. And so there was already class dynamics within the class.
Right.
And it didn't matter. I mean, it was black, white, Asian, diversity. But where Amy and I grew up, there wasn't a lot of, let's be honest, there wasn't a lot of diversity in our high school.
No, there wasn't.
Not at all. If there was,
Well,
I think there was one Asian person.
Yeah.
and-
No, there was like, probably 4 Asian people and 2 black people in our high school when I was a senior.
Right.
Yeah. Out of 900 people.
Yeah, and we
And we're-
graduated 88, 89, so.
And then you went to didn't you when you went to grad school, did you study critical race theory?
I did. I was at the burgeoning of that whole thing, the postmodernism, essentially what we're seeing now kind of ramping up. It was 2000 to 2005, and it was quite intense. I mean, in the green room in our studio, I know for the audio people, you can't see this, but all my books are in there, and I would say about 70% of them we had to see everything through the lens of race and identity and things like that. And I was a comparative literature major. I was a PhD student in comparative literature. So everything was kind of, when I say everything, I'm not joking. I mean,
Right.
It was mostly through the lens of, all of that. And so I saw this coming, whatever this is. But, and Amy had asked me, well, what do you think happened? Why today? Well, probably because when we were doing it, all the students that we taught as grad students and were being told this is what you teach, now they're running the show. I mean, think about it. They're out there. Everybody, graduating from, college, and I don't know what to make of it. It's not my show. So
Well, thank you for your
you
input.
asked me.
Yeah, no,
I don't know what to
topic
make
for
of
another
it.
day, maybe.
I don't know if it's good or bad, but I once again, two things can be.
Well, and that just goes to show how much education is truly driving all of this.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
started at the academy. That's
Yeah.
my last point. It did start at the academy, and I think everyone's pretty much on the same page with that. And we're kind of reeling because it's like, oh, I thought that was just those dumb college kids. Nope, it's everywhere. No.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And see, that's the thing, like you said, that education is driving it, and that's where we need to go with this. We need to educate Black people or people of color that not every white person is going to be against you, and not every white person needs to be demonized because of what their ancestors did in the past. But every white person needs to recognize that there is a problem in the United States with racism,
Right.
and the fact that Black people have been left behind economically because of slavery in the Jim Crow era and stuff like that. And that's it. This is a problem. We don't need to blame white people for what their ancestors did.
We need to quit
We just
slinging
need to
mud and actually
recognize that it
recognize and move forward.
Right, recognize that happened. Now once we have that recognition, we have on top of that. Okay, now we have to educate on how to move forward past that, and then also put people in office who are willing to do the same thing and not try to divide us.
Right, but there, everybody, the people in office have the power. They have the money they're getting. They have big tech. They have big farm. They have everything that they need to put the programming in front of us. I mean, it's called television program for a reason. Put the programming in front of us that will make us believe what they want us to believe.
Right.
How do we ever fight that? Or how do we? How do you get past that point? So you take everybody's TVs away?
You have to start with Facebook.
They should all listen to podcasts.
You have to start with Facebook because that's where everybody's learning everything these days.
Yeah. Well, except for the stuff they censor that they feel is not important. But yeah. No, I think that the other thing I see too is, to Nate's point, that's being taught in the academy, and anything that's being taught. So you're pumping people out here that are teaching all the bullshit that, basically the white privilege and that we are the demons. That's the demonization that's coming from all that. So you're, educating people that keep going out to our kids and telling them all that stuff. And then you have the inner cities and the kids that need help and then need the education to be able to spend money on, invest money and to be able to get themselves out of that spot. And in the meantime, who's funding all of this?
I need to step back real quick. I don't think white privilege is a demonization. I think it's a real thing.
Okay.
White people have a certain privilege that people of color don't have.
Okay, but how do you? All right, and I get that.
Okay.
But the white, it's
the way it's used that
right.
when it becomes demonized, when it becomes a situation where you're trying to demonize somebody. So when you're pointing the finger at somebody saying you're using your white privilege, that's when you're demonizing that person. Here's the thing: you were born white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's not your fault.
Nope.
Not this is a bad
Purely by accident of birth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're black.
I am
white,
so
purely.
sorry that I'm a white Don't Norwegian.
Why are you a
Swedish
girl,
blonde
Amy?
chick. Well, I
you
could
go.
check with my doctor and see if that's really true.
Don't even go there. Don't even go there.
I'm pretty sure I'm a girl. Yeah.
But let's look at it this way. Nate, you and I, guess what?
Yeah.
We have a privilege.
Yeah, we do. We're men.
Exactly. We could walk into any bar in America and not have to worry about getting raped.
Exactly.
Having a Mickey slipped in our drink.
Talked about that.
And
with
you know
my
what
own
that
daughter.
is?
Yeah.
That's male privilege.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't think about that every day. I don't think about the privilege that I have to be a 6'2", 245-pound black guy, I could walk out the door and not have to worry about being attacked.
That's a great
But you-
analogy.
I
That's
don't
a
have.
really good
I,
You don't have that privilege.
Oh,
No, you do not.
You
not
don't.
at all. I mean, not that I wouldn't kick ass if I was attacked.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't mess with her, but yeah.
But yeah, I do. I get myself in. I have gone. I've done a lot of things in my 14 years of real estate to be sure that I'm not alone with a strange man or
Right.
stranger or whoever I'm supposed to be meeting, and that I have protection in case something goes wrong
Do you know how often I think about that when I walk into a house?
every day.
Never. I never think about being attacked when I walk into a house.
Okay, gotcha. I
That's
thought you
what
meant-
this is.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I never
a great
think about that.
analogy. I
That's
never thought about it that
privilege.
way. Yeah.
So it's what we need. And again, it goes back to educate. Okay, yes, these people were born white. Yes, they have a privilege. However, that privilege comes because of what we had to deal with in the past. And now we all recognize that that's here. So now what the hell are we going to
Right.
do about it?
And if the answer is education, that's great. But the people that are running the system of our education are the ones that are trying to divide us. So now what?
Now you're a conspiracy theorist.
Damn
That's
it,
our next episode.
All right, stay
On
tuned,
the
guys.
70%
Yeah, we're gonna have to end it here. I think it's a good break, and we will pick this up again next week.
I'm Mike Sewell.
I'm Amy Alexander, and this is the 70%.
Talk to you next week.